New day, new goals, let's own it. We're in Soho, New York City. I'm excited about this episode because it's somebody that I met in Jerusalem, and he's one of the most remarkable entrepreneurs and women that I've seen step up as a CEO and actually kill it. I mean, we're talking about not only is she killing it with her startup, making millions of dollars, but she also created her dream job before that, working for NASA. She's somebody that is literally inspiring so many people. She uses her company as a social enterprise to give back and teach engineering and many important skills to the youth. She's somebody who I think is one of the most inspiring women right now out in the world, just killing the game as a CEO. Let's get to the untold story of none other than Aisha Bowe. Who is Aisha Bowe? Like, where did you grow up, and how did that lead into NASA? I mean, because that's such an unbelievable accomplishment. Did you always envision becoming an engineer when you were young, and what was it like growing up?
Well, I never thought I was going to be anything in life. I feel like if I had that thought, I probably would have done a lot of things differently. I wasn't focused, and I wasn't motivated. And I kind of, like, if you look me up, you'll hear this story about being in high school and not performing in school, right?
Really?
Oh, yes. Like, I just skipped class.
What?
And I had fun skipping class. I did not go. And I was truant, and I really had to kind of give this one out to my dad because he had gotten a certificate and whatever you needed in order to teach summer school so that I could pick up some extra courses so that I could graduate with a high school diploma.
Wow.
I mean, I was to the point where I didn't apply for college. I actually had a really cool boyfriend at the time who saw something in me, and he hand wrote an application to Eastern Michigan University. They accepted me, and I was like, this is probably a mistake. So I ended up in community college. But the story starts before then, and I really like to get into this with individuals that I meet. I don't care if you're a student or you're an adult, but there's this idea that if you are not high performing in high school, or if you're not high performing in middle school, for whatever reason, that maybe you're not intelligent, or maybe you're not going to be something.
Yeah.
But oftentimes it's all these external factors that contribute to whether or not you can focus and whether or not you're motivated. So for me, it was environmental dynamics. There were some things going on at home that culminated in a divorce between my parents that just did not allow me to focus. Getting to school and being productive was not what I was concerned with. And I realized at the time that I didn't have any emotional coping skills. Like, I just dealt with things in some of the most self-destructive ways possible. And so of course I wasn't at school. I was skipping class, I was hanging out with older kids, I was doing things that you probably thought I was doing, and that persisted until my early 20s. So here I am, I'm in community college. I get a C in economics my first year. And from there, I was really sunk because I wasn't high performing in high school. I didn't have anybody telling me that I was intelligent and was gonna be anything. And here I am at Washtenaw Community College in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I've delivered a C in community college. So no, I did not think I was going to be an aerospace engineer. And no, I did not think I was going to end up owning a company. Absolutely not in the cards for me at the time.
Wow. When I see it, Aisha, I see someone that's like so remarkable, a powerful woman. I'm sitting across her and like somewhat intimidated. I'm like, this is one of the most inspiring women entrepreneurs that I think I've ever had the opportunity to sit down and interview. But what's interesting is that since she was young to even this day, she still is someone that actually suffers from self-doubt. And we're gonna talk about how does she overcome that self-doubt to eventually going from someone who didn't really believe in herself, discounted herself, to getting her dream job working for NASA as like one of the top aerospace engineers, winning an honor award for them. And then it didn't stop there. How did she go from working with NASA, and what did she learn from there to then start her own business, becoming a real entrepreneur, a CEO, a founder of her company STEM Board, that not only has become a multi-million-dollar organization, but leveraging it to make an impact in the community for the youth, teaching them engineering skills and taking her influence and turning that into real transformation.
And so my dad comes out of nowhere, just like over dinner, and he suggests that I take a math class, and I'm like, whatever, okay, why? But I end up taking this math class, and that leads to me getting into University of Michigan and studying aerospace engineering. So that's an abbreviated story, right? So I took this one class.
So this is that one class.
And then this one class turned into an A, and then I took another class and took another class. But it is perfectly possible to progress in something without actually gaining any self-confidence and without actually thinking that it's going to become a life path for you. Because at the time, I wasn't thinking, oh, I got an A in pre-algebra, I'm gonna be a rocket scientist. I was thinking, oh, I got an A in pre-algebra, I probably retained something from high school. And so these accomplishments culminated in me being wasted at Mardi Gras. And I had to take, no, wasted is probably an understatement. I remember I was so drunk that I went to hail a cab and it was a cop car.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Oh, what's better is the cops stopped. They stopped and they gave us a ride to the bar. So I'm just gonna, yeah, we were that kind of fun. So they gave us a ride to the bar, and they're feeding us Laffy Taffies through the grate the entire time, and like telling us about the beat and telling us what bars not to go to, because clearly upstanding young ladies like ourselves should stay out of trouble in New Orleans during this Mardi Gras. And I'm just back there like, I'm just glad that you're not taking me to the drunk tank. I'm getting a cop escort to the bar.
Yeah.
Okay, this is great. But I came back from that, and I had to take a Calc 2 exam. Because, right, I'm responsible. No. So I'm sitting in this Calc 2 exam, and I probably stink of booze. And I finish the test, and my professor looks really, like, not angry, but just, like kind of annoyed. And I just want to go home. Like, I really need to shower. I need a nap. I need some, like, rice milk or something so that I can try to rehydrate without throwing up. And he looks at me, and he's like, you got 100.
What?
Yeah, that's what he said. What? Because he had changed the questions on the exam. You know, thinking that students that take the exam after the exam is passed might cheat.
Right.
And so at this point in time, he's kind of frustrated, and clearly I'm not, like, in the land of sober. And his response to me is, I really think that you should go home and think about doing something differently with your life. I was just, okay, bye. So I went home that day, and after I sobered up, clearly I wasn't doing any like profound deep thinking while I was trying to detox post Mardi Gras. But I went home and I sort of realized that I didn't have any self-esteem, I didn't have any direction, and I just bought in to all of the stereotypes. I bought into this idea that I was poor, I was black, I was unattractive, I was uneducated, and that I wasn't gonna be anything. And I let that drive me. And then I thought, okay, well, what if I made up my life from here on out? Like, what if I just said, okay, let's toss this out and let's write down what I would hope to achieve if everything was perfect. And so I said, I want to go to the University of Michigan. I want to study engineering. And then, of course, you have to choose engineering. And so, you know, I'm looking at the engineering list, and there's nuclear engineering, and there's aerospace engineering, and obviously there's more than just those two in the engineering discipline. There's like civil, electrical, mechanical, chemical, et cetera, et cetera. But those two are at the top of my list of like badass. Like if I'm gonna be an engineer and I'm gonna really slave for my degree for the next 4 years, I wanna be either an aerospace engineer or a nuclear engineer.
Wow.
So I thought on this and I'm like, aerospace. Aerospace is it. Because at the time, mostly the nuclear people that I knew were like Navy nuclear sub. And the idea of spending like a lot of quality time on a sub with a bunch of dudes was like it was like not a high on my list of things to do. Like that was not appealing to me. So aerospace engineering, it was. And then of course I kind of said, okay, well, after I do aerospace engineering, I'm gonna go and work for NASA, and that was it. Like at that point in time.
So you had that vision, you put that out there.
Well, I put it out there. So that's a really sort of powerful way to create that I had not yet met formally. This is just me in my room in Michigan, just making stuff up. That was my list. And after NASA, it was like.
You wrote this out?
Yeah, I wrote it down, and then after this, it was like, okay, I reached the end of the world, I fell off and a dragon ate me. Like there was no, I just didn't have a life plan after that, because it was so outrageous. There was no way that I was going to get into Michigan. I mean, if you do not do well in high school, you don't get into Michigan, or so I thought. But it ended up not being true, right? I transferred to Michigan. I finished an undergrad in aerospace engineering and a master's in space systems engineering. And it would just so happen that the gentleman who directed NASA Ames Research Center in Silicon Valley was an alumni of the University of Michigan. And he sent his director of engineering to come and scout talent at the University of Michigan.
Wow.
And I was doing my best to mess up the opportunity. Yes. Yeah. No.
Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. I said no. I said no. Like, after all of this, still had such low self-esteem that the first time I was offered a job at NASA, I was outraged that he did not pick students in my class who had higher GPAs.
Wow.
I was like, how could you not hire XYZ who had a 3.8 or a 3.9? Like, no, I think you need to go and look at the resume pile again. I mean, it was so deeply embedded in me at that point in time, it didn't even occur to me that I was selling myself short.
Yeah, of course.
I firmly took that stance with him, like, there's just no, I'm not going to California. I am not going to take the opportunity of a lifetime to come work for you.
So you declined?
I did.
That's crazy.
I know. Like, I was really stupid, right?
Or?
It was dumb. Let's just call it, like, sometimes you got to call a spade a spade.
Right.
It was dumb. Yeah. That's a serious point. It was dumb. But that happens a lot. Like, you have a lot of really intelligent people who sell themselves short and they miss out on opportunities of lifetime because they don't
value themselves.
Exactly. They don't think that they are worth it, even though society has indicated to them already that they are. Well, I happen to live in a land of men who just have been incredible mentors to me.
Wow.
In the engineering field. And I say men specifically because a lot of men dominate my chosen profession of aerospace engineering.
Interesting.
And this gentleman circled back a couple of weeks later. I can only imagine that, you know, he has children and he's probably recognized, you know, as a parent, like sometimes you gotta put topic down and come back. But he came back and he said, you know, hey, we're having this really amazing conference at the NASA facility. You should come out. I was like, oh, hey.
This is after you declined?
Yeah, after I declined, and yeah.
Oh, wow. Did you have any regrets at that point in time?
No, remember, I was being dumb. No.
So you just were just like, no, you were sold that wasn't meant for you.
Yeah.
You weren't good enough.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a better way of saying it because it's not, like I joke and I'm like, oh, you know, it was being dumb or silly, but the reality is that I did not have self-confidence, self-esteem. I did not feel as though I was worthy of such a phenomenal opportunity, regardless of the fact that I had put so much work in. And it's truly, I mean, that's truly destructive, a self-destructive habit that I had to break. And so he comes back around and he offers me this opportunity to come for a conference. Loved it, had an absolute ball. And at the end of the conference, he sits with me and he says, "So what was your favorite part?" And I told him about a gentleman who, his name is John Hines, and he was involved in some really interesting work in small spacecraft at the facility, and how I really admired him, and I just enjoyed the line of work. And he says to me, "Okay, that's great. When you finish your semester, you're going to come back here. I've funded your internship, and you're going to work with John." And that was it. Like, it wasn't an ask. It was it was a command. This is what you're going to do. And I remember sitting there, and I felt that, well, how are you going to tell me what I'm supposed? And then it occurred to me to just be quiet and accept the blessing. And that was that. And that was really how I started my career at NASA. And that first week, the first week was beyond anything that I think I could communicate to someone, because there's so many talented, brilliant people who work at that site. And so you're going door to door and you're saying, wow, like you're working on thermal protection systems for re-entry in the ARC jet. Or wow, I'm on a tour of the largest wind tunnel in the world. Or oh, I'm in a vertical motion simulator that has 6 degrees of freedom and I haven't even had lunch yet. There was so much there that was intellectually stimulating, that was really the beginning of me building a sense of confidence and positive self-esteem.
I think that there's so many people out there that I feel they struggle with this. They really struggle with like their own self-worth. And you know, I think all of us at some point, because we're so conditioned, I think at a young age, to be like almost like put in a box. I feel like since like I was young, I genuinely feel that I was not smart enough too, that I never would be successful. Like,
yeah.
I look back at my life sometimes, even to today, and I'm like, how did this happen? Why am I being asked to speak at Harvard University? Can someone explain? Like, still to this day, I don't know if you are at, do you still have moments of self-doubt?
Every day? Yeah, I mean, I think that it's something that you work on every day, because it's always a different challenge. I mean, we've transitioned from working at NASA. I think it took me about 3 years to feel like I was not an imposter. I was there for 6 years.
Wow.
Around the 6-year mark, I made the transition to starting an organization. Well, okay, I don't know how to do this. I never started a company. I didn't know anything about accruing payroll or executing contracts. And so I would have interactions with people who knew significantly more than me, and I would not walk away feeling good about myself. I think that's natural, right? You're new, you're getting your feet wet. You're learning a lot in the first couple of years owning a business, especially if you've never owned one before. And so I did have a lot of doubts about whether or not I could do this. You know, can I really grow a company and lead a team?
When I think about a world-class leader, I think of someone who challenges themselves to be resilient, to creating more impact in the world, to elevating themselves, to get out of their comfort zone, to be a voice of change, of real transformation. And Aisha does that, right? I mean, she gets into NASA, she then leverages NASA to be able to inspire her to create her own business, leveraging that to make impact in the youth community. But she doesn't stop there. We're gonna get into what is her take on how she's being an inspiration on Black women in tech.
What was it like really working there? And did any of that did you take anything from working with NASA into becoming an entrepreneur and going and building your own company?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, hands down, NASA is an incredible place. I think if anyone has an opportunity to be part of that agency, they should jump at it and not make any of the decisions that I made early in my career. Do not shy away, take the job like immediately.
Yeah.
But I think I had a realization that in many ways what I wanted to do was bigger than their brand. It was different than their brand. And I wasn't speaking wholly to who I was as a person in that job. So my role at NASA was very specific. I worked in aeronautics. I worked in aviation systems. I was charged with specific things that supported the agency mission. But I, as a Black woman, I, as someone who knows what it's like to be poor and who doesn't have individuals around me who's ever gone and really been in engineering at that level, said, I want to take the impact that I'm having in my profession and translate that into the community. And it doesn't have to be the African American community. I initially started with the community around the NASA facility. So I wanted to see how we could go out and share our mission with Richmond and Oakland and South San Jose and all these other areas. And what I started to realize was that I couldn't even get to what it was that I did at my job because the students were like, you're an aerospace engineer? That consumed the entire talk. Like, wait, what? It was beyond them because they had never seen someone like me. I did not fit what they thought an engineer was.
Yeah.
And then I decided to bring them in. And we created a shadow day. And so the kids would come in and I would take them around the facility. And that was about my second year in, right? So by my third, fourth, and fifth, these students started applying for engineering schools.
Wow.
And by the time I left NASA, they started graduating. And I was like, well, wait a second, okay, hold on. So you mean by me going to your school and me just being part of your like your educational career, that moment changed the way that you viewed the world.
Yeah.
That it opened a realm of possibility for you.
Yeah.
So you pursue engineering? Whoa, there's something here.
Yeah.
And so then I started to say, okay, well, how can I work to create a company that is not only sustainable and that allows myself and the individuals around me to cultivate their technical interest, but that also gives back to not only the communities that we care about, but like the nation as a whole. So like how do you do that? And that that journey was an interesting one because being out in Silicon Valley, you have the Sand Hill Road gang, and now I can sit and have a conversation with you about access to capital, issues for minority entrepreneurs and women, and there's not the same taboo around it, right? People have accepted that minority entrepreneurs and women are not being funded at the same rate or the same in the same amount or as some of the more traditional set. So that's like not taboo, but 5 or 6 years ago, that was something that was known, but it wasn't like people were talking about it. You didn't have the same type of resources that you have today. And we went out and we tried to raise money. And I'm not saying that anybody has a great time raising money. Like by all accounts, even those that do it successfully, there's a lot of hardship that's involved.
Yeah.
But for me, it was not only a no, but it was a no in a way that I felt like we were being laughed at. But this is why I tell individuals, sometimes when you encounter adversity, it's a really good idea to embrace it. Like embrace the darkness, because we learn more from our mistakes than our successes. And I was talking to my business partner at the time, and I'm like, is this really how we want to start a business? Like, what is it about going out there and bringing in this capital that is the end all to be all. Can we do this another way?
Yeah.
And we're sitting there and, he's this phenomenal, brilliant computer scientist, and I'm an aerospace engineer, and we're engineers. He had experience with companies, like he'd founded companies before that provided engineering services to the government, and it was like, that's what we're gonna do. So we started bidding on engineering work, and we started winning. And that's how the company started 5 years ago, because we started bidding on engineering work, we're winning the work, and so we were cash positive from the beginning. And we would then take a portion of that revenue and create education outreach programs. But we sort of said, we're going to accept all problems that we think are interesting and are hard. And we won work to do that. And then we leveraged that work to do the things that we felt were for the good of the country and of the world.
So Aisha, I actually don't know too much about your company, STEMboard. Can you tell me a little bit about like what you are actually creating, what problems you're solving?
So STEMboard provides engineering solutions for federal and large-scale private sector clients.
Cool. So like, give me an example. Like, is it like real stealth? Like, can you talk a little bit about some of since it's defense, can you talk about some of it? And then what kind of, are you building technology?
So yes, and sort of. Yes, in that we build a lot of technology. A lot of the things that we deal with are problems that have not yet have a solution. Hence the providing solutions part. But I cannot get into all the specifics due to some of the sort of stealth elements of the things that we do. However, we are actively involved in data, so protecting data, transferring data, how data is shared. And this is not necessarily data in the sense of data that has to do with you and you as a person, but it's how do you get information to the right individual so they can make a decision on that in a timely fashion.
How have you evolved as a strong CEO for your company?
I mostly try to stay out of the way. What I found over the last 2 years is I had adopted the same pattern that when I began my career at NASA, where I felt like I was an imposter in many ways. And because of this, it led to some behaviors that I don't think, we function as a company, don't get me wrong, but I could have been better.
Yeah.
And we could have been better had I taken a step back and focused a little bit more on self-exploration and personal development. And so about 3 years ago, and this is the story before the story, right? The story before meeting you in Israel, I decided that I was really going to start focusing on putting myself first. And that was baby steps. That meant I was going to get up a little bit earlier in the morning. That meant that I was going to meditate. I was going to eat right. I was going to work out. And that led me down this journey of, all right, well, now I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to do things that I never would have thought possible. And I'm in my house, minding my business, and I get a lightning bolt that says, you're going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I don't like to sleep outside. I don't know if you guys got that from me, but I'm not like somebody who relishes their quality time in the outdoors. But that is what I was compelled to do. And I did that. And that was aided by the fact that, okay, I had been waking up, I had been focused, I had been working out, and then I doubled down on preparing for this trip. And I remember that summit because that summit put me in contact with an individual who happened to work with the foundation and inspired the trip to Israel. And I had to laugh, so I said to myself, okay, so you climbed the mountain and you ended up on a trip to see God. All of this really motivated me to do more and go further. And so later in that year, I tightened up my diet even more, and I competed in my first bikini bodybuilding competition. It was an NPC show, and I was so nervous. I have gotten up in front of many crowds, but I have never done it in a sequin bikini and turned around. Like, that really was a game changer for me in a lot of ways, and it seems like it's so trivial, but it was the discipline of waking up every single day and going to work feeling hungry, because hey, that's kind of what happens when you're restricting your calories and focusing on your diet, and not drinking. But it was also this idea that the more that I pushed my mind and the more that I pushed my body, the more that I brought discipline into my life. And that discipline led to me really being focused and being able to say, okay, how can I, in the process of bettering myself as a person, better the organization? And I think a lot of that culminated in going on our trip to Israel this year, coming out of the experience and deciding that I really want to double down on my commitment to the company. We passed the 5-year mark, and I'm really feeling like this is something that I feel like I can do. Like, I no longer feel like I'm an imposter. I have an amazing group of individuals that are backing me, and we're going to take this organization to the next level.
Like, in your opinion, what makes a great leader?
The leaders that I really admire are authentic. They're able to balance humility with brilliance, and they have a sense of right and lead with their organization first. Hands down, I'll just put it out there, I judge people by the way that they treat their teams and the way that they treat people around them. And I understand that along the way, as a leader, you often are forced to look at yourself and to grow. But out of that, I hope that people recognize that they're as good as their team and always bet on the team. I, Aisha Bowe, have accomplished certain things in my life, but this entire experience, this meeting where I am in my life, would not have been possible without the individuals who are getting up every single day and contributing to that.
Yeah.
And that is a quality that I look for in good leaders.
If you were to just imagine yourself at the end of your life, what would be the lasting legacy that you would hope that you would want to leave behind?
I measure impact in lives touched. For me, it was probably my second pay increase where I was happy for about 5 minutes. And I realized that it wasn't the money that made me feel a sense of fulfillment. Now, I understand that there are limitations to that. You know, I remember living on $500 a month, and thank God you can do that in Michigan, and transitioning to being a working professional and how significant of a change that was. And I understand that that's a space that some individuals are in right now, and I don't want to take anything away from that. But from that point on for me, it wasn't about the money. It was about whether or not I could be part of a process that in some way would make my community better, someone's life better, just the world better, period. That's really what drives me and why I'm so honored to be part of my organization. And I know it might sound funny, but like I'm honored to be in a partnership with people who believe that we should use our time and our energy to not only build badass technology, but teach how we did that to people who wouldn't have access to us, who we don't even know, who aren't related to us, who aren't paying us, you know? I mean, like, we have no reason to be there.
Like the most badass group of like engineers solving the biggest problems, and then taking that same group that's solving some of the biggest issues in the world, and then going and helping a group of minorities that would otherwise never have that exposure.
I believe in democratizing technology. Like, for me, technology is the great equalizer, and I feel like we as a nation are educating a bunch of individuals for jobs that are not going to exist in a decade or in 2 decades. Why? Like, if we know that these jobs are going away, why are we doing that? And could we do that in a better way? Well, I don't believe that you need to wait to graduate in order to generate revenue. I feel like if you like making jewelry in your free time in your bedroom, let me show you how to monetize that. Let's put that on Etsy. If you're a kid and you like to tinker, let me show you some technology basics, challenge you to create a business plan, challenge you to create a prototype, and then put you in an environment where if you win, you can have access to resources. So that's all Hackett is about. And it really started in Nassau in the Bahamas, which is where my family's from, because there were a lack of technical opportunities for the students. 5 years ago, concrete classroom, we started, no AC and spotty Wi-Fi. And that turned into having 75 plus students that attend our camp each year now. And the students are making companies, and they're in high school. And they're coming back year after year. They're working with their teams after they graduate. And it's this idea that I don't care if you're poor. I don't care if you even like engineering. It's not a requirement. I'm gonna show you the fundamentals of how to create a prototype, how to make a business plan, and how to pitch your company. And if somebody likes that, you run with it.
Such a game changer. I mean, a few takeaways that I want to kind of review, and I hope this is really impactful for you. You know, comment if you've been touched by Aisha's story. You know, first and foremost, never discount yourself. Aisha did, but look at what happened. She was able to completely shift her life to actually manifesting her dream job working for NASA. I mean, think about that. I mean, that's remarkable. So never discount yourself. Outdream yourself daily, as Aisha always talks about. You know, and then second of all, it's never too late to reinvent yourself. Even though she had her dream job working for NASA, she decided to go all in at becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a founder, starting her own venture. Think about how scary that was to leave her dream job at NASA to go and start her own venture, but she was able to make millions of dollars doing it and believing in herself and stepping into that fear. It's never too late for you to step into that fear, step into creating your own venture. If Aisha was able to do it, you can too. The third is, there's a difference between influence and transformation. She's leveraging her brand, she's leveraging her company to make real transformation in the world, inspiring and educating the youth, teaching engineering, and also using her personal brand to inspire many other Black women in tech to see more of them stepping into starting their own businesses. Also, you can't do it alone. You know, Aisha's the CEO of her company, but she talks about that, listen, you've got to build a culture, you've got to build a team. You know, and if it wasn't for her strong team and empowering them, she wouldn't be able to have her startup making millions of dollars, killing the game. So guys, I hope this inspired you. If it did, do me a favor, comment, engage below in the comment section. Let's see what you guys feel about the episode, what inspired you. Aisha will be commenting, I'll be engaging. Share this with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe so you are always getting the stories first, getting notified each time we launch a new episode every week. I wouldn't be doing this without you, so your engagement, your comments inspire me to keep going. All right, remember, leaders create leaders. What do you think makes a great leader? Comment below. It's your boy GA in Soho, New York. Until next time, peace.